everybody? Welcome back to Miami Total Football Radio, the show. It's a late edition here on this fine Wednesday night in South Florida. But it's all good because we have a doozy of an episode today. Andre Itayanes, as you can see, our beloved Ajicita is here to join us for what should be a very spicy episode. This is the first show since last week's episode, but the first show since Lionel Messi and Inter Miami announced that the star Argentine re-signed his new contract officially. It is a done deal. Lionel Messi will stay with Inter Miami. I know some people had doubts over the course of this year when there were no updates, but all signs pointed to a deal getting done. He really wasn't going to go anywhere else. So we will talk about that. We will talk about the start of the playoffs for Inter Miami, a successful start, getting off on the right foot with the win over Nashville SC. We will talk about Yannick Bright's extension. We'll talk about Marcelo against no extension. We'll talk about Rodrigo De Paul and his little excursion to Argentina. So it should be a good episode. We've got a lot to talk about. I actually have like 9 different sound bites, including one from Messi that I plan to share. So we've got a lot to get to, especially if we want to do it in the hour and 10-minute mark. So Andrea, how are you, my friend? Thank you for joining here on Miami Total Football Radio.
Te salió de una. No, I'm glad to be back. I've been a little bit busy. This is a time of the year that it's a lot of things happening, but I'm glad to be back here. I'm glad to be talking about Inter Miami. You know, I'm coming like with everything. I'm coming like I don't know if Miami Total Football Radio fans will know who is this, who I'm talking about, but I'm coming like Graves and with the Gravesiña, all in, all in, because we have a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to to read what everyone thinks, and if people agree with us or hate us or whatever, but it's gonna be fun. So I'm glad to be back, and let's start.
Yes. So there should be some good opinions here. Well, of course, I have analysis, but there should be some good opinions
Hi to
with
everyone. I see
with
a comment
regards
there.
to Inter Miami topics. And yes, going through the comments here in the comment section. Yes, if this is the first time you're watching, my name's Franco Panizo, but I imagine most of you have been here for some time. The loner _10 in the comment section says, Franco, why did you become bitter towards Messi? I remember you were so good when I started following this team in 2023. If that's the perception you have, loner, then I'm not going to argue or disagree with what your perception is. Perception is reality. I wouldn't call it bitter, but if that's how you view it, that's how you view it. There are certain things that players and the team get criticized for. Messi is the superstar player on this team. He is held to a higher bar than the rest of his teammates. So I hold them to that standard. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it, but that's my quick response. But we'll start with that big news. Andrea, last week on, was it Thursday? I believe it was Thursday. Yes, it was Thursday. The announcement that many Inter Miami fans, or all Inter Miami fans, were waiting for. Lionel Messi signs his contract extension with Inter Miami. It is through the 2028 season. So we're talking another 3 years when Lionel Messi will be 41 years old. It is reported that he does have player options after each season. So if things go really south and they hit the fan, well, I guess he can just opt out and figure out what he wants to do. But by and large, you should expect him to finish out his career with Inter Miami. This was part of the official release, a picture of Messi inside of the still being constructed Miami Freedom Park. I'll just quickly read the first paragraph here. Quote, Inter Miami CF announced today it has signed club captain, 8-time Ballon d'Or winner, and World Cup champion Leo Messi to a contract extension running through the 2028 Major League Soccer season. End quote. Andrea, before we get to our thoughts on the deal, what it means, the length, all that good stuff, let's listen to the man himself. Some words from he who seldomly talks, and that is Lionel Messi, who did a quick little interview with team staff to talk about this announcement.
Bueno, la verdad que es una alegría poder seguir continuando acá. Empezamos desde el principio, por decirlo de alguna manera, con este sueño, con este estadio y poder ser parte, poder jugar en este estadio y vivirlo desde adentro, la verdad que es muy lindo. Soy feliz desde que llegué en este lugar, así que muy contento de continuar.
So to summarize, for those that don't speak Spanish or understand, he said he's excited to keep going, especially in this new stadium, which he was in, of course, talking about Miami Freedom Park. And he's excited. Not a whole lot said, but nonetheless, something was said. And it's nice to see Messi's face here and listening to him. Something that rarely happens because he rarely talks, as we know, and we can dissect that a little bit later on. I wrote an article last week touching on that very subject. But Andrea, the good news is here. Messi will be with Inter Miami for 3 more years if all goes according to plan. We'll talk about Jorge Mas and David Beckham's comments in a second. But your initial reaction last week when the news finally came through, it's official. Lionel Messi will stay in the pink and black in South Florida.
No, I think it's good news for our fans here. I think it's good news for Jorge Mas and the managing partners and David Beckham, because with a new stadium, they needed something big, and they got it. And they got him for 3 years. As you said, he has an option. It's not 100% guaranteed that he's going to stay here playing for the 3 years, because he has an option. But that's good news that he wants to keep on playing here for the team, keep on playing here and keep on building what he's doing. I guess he feels very comfortable. He manages almost everything in the club. So I think it was a no-brainer for him to sign a contract and stay here. He wouldn't have the same thing that he has here anywhere in the world, not in Barcelona, not in Argentina. So I think for him it was a good move, and for the team, as I said, for Jorge Mas and David Beckham and Jose Mas, they needed something to keep the life and to bring life to the new stadium. It's in a new place. You know how the community is here in South Florida, and Inter Miami, unfortunately, is not an established team in this community. So they needed something, and I think that was a big get, and it was very intelligent to do the announcement in the stadium, because that brings publicity to the project that you're building, and brings a little bit of talk, because you need that, and the team needs that to sell tickets and to survive and to move on. And not only in the football aspect, but of course we know the drama with the land deal and the controversial 99 years that the group has of management for that land. They need to develop it, and they needed something to make people excited, something to make people invest in that land, invest in putting their restaurants, their hotels, or whatever they're going to open, right? And I guess that's looking at the positive. Then if you look at from the other side, it comes with something, because you're signing to keep the control and everything in Messi's hands. So I don't know if that's an intelligent thing to do. We would know that when or if Inter Miami starts winning trophies, and that's how we judge if that was successful or not.
So, touching on the subject of the stadium, Miami Freedom Park, this announcement was very intertwined with the story that he will help debut that. And of course, like you said, it's to drum up interest ahead of the opening of that venue in Miami next year. It's clear that that was the organization's MO, that they really wanted to push. Hey, look, Messi's going to be playing in our brand new stadium. Come check it out, because they had him talk about it. Jorge Mas talks about it. David Beckham talked about it. The pictures were in there. The reveal was done in there on social media. So obviously, very clear the message Inter Miami is trying to portray. Hey, we're opening a new venue, and Messi will be the star attraction, which fair, it will generate more interest than if you did not have Messi, naturally. So, job well done in that part, but very clear that they're trying to drum up hype for that new stadium. I mean, without Messi, does that stadium have as much hype? Probably not.
I don't know,
Probably not.
even with Messi, it's difficult. Miami, people in Miami, I always say, yes, football, soccer, whatever you call it, it's big here, but it's more difficult in the city to build a successful team, because in the city everyone is a fan of the team in their country or of their country, and it's very difficult for them to leave that away and become fans of something else. And also, you need not only Latinos, but you need the American public to want to go and buy the season tickets. And unfortunately, that for Inter Miami is not happening, because this is, I don't know when you have this topic, but Messi is not big in the American market, and it's a topic that we've touched this here. I've had some opinions over the years that Messi has been here, and I stand by them. And I think time has only made my opinions 100% true. Like, I remember when I told you, Luka Doncic to the Lakers is gonna be bigger than anything Inter Miami does with than Messi does with Inter Miami, and that's true. Shohei
I'm
Ohtani,
smirking.
unfortunately,
Because
here
the yellow card,
in
you,
the
Andrea.
United States is
You're getting
bigger
ahead. You're getting ahead
Lionel
of
Messi. So that's an aspect that they need to look, because they cannot, if they depend only on tourists, on people wanting to come and see Messi play, the stadium is not going to be a success. So they need to build on that, and it's something that I think it's missing from Inter Miami, and they need to fix it. And I think that
it's too
this
early in the
announcement,
game. It's too early in the game to give you a yellow card. So I'm going to give you a talking to. That is a talking point for later, but this is your last warning, señorita. Next time you get the yellow card. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail later, although you've touched on some good points there. With regards to the on-the-field product, having Messi on the team as one of the DPs is a plus, of course. He's still one of the best players
100%.
on the planet. He helps you in many ways. If he's not scoring, he's assisting. If he's not assisting, he's scoring. Still very dangerous. We'll see how his body holds up as he gets closer to 40. Once he passes 40, that is something that we will keep track of over the next 2 years. As of right now, I mean, he's had his injuries during his initial stint here, but by and large, he's been able to consistently perform and produce. So on the field, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, financially, having him brings in and rakes in a ton of money, a ton of dough for Inter Miami. But you did touch on earlier the important or unimportant aspect is that with Messi, you definitely lose some control as an organization. You lose some autonomy in the way you make your decisions, because look, there's no denying, and this happens across many sports with different top athletes, but there's no denying that Messi has massive influence in the decisions that are made, right? As the superstar player that generates so much attention, so much revenue, so much interest. Up until now, from the sporting side, you cannot call this project a success. They have not won enough trophies to say that. Messi has delighted, he has dazzled, he has scored goals, golazos. He's going to win a second consecutive historic MLS MVP, deservedly so, but this project has not been a success. It's a success by winning trophies. They haven't won enough of them. So we'll see how the project evolves You know, you're
Mhm.
losing Sergio Busquets, you're losing Jordi Alba next year. We'll see as Messi gets older how they build around him in a different way. Because I don't think they're going to continue with the older veteran approach. But we'll see.
There's
We will
none
see.
left. Who are you gonna bring? Puyol is retired. Xavi's retired.
Neymar's
Iniesta's
the name that keeps
retired.
listen. Neymar keeps getting mentioned, and I will say this. This is information, not supposition, not sensation. No es suposición, no es sensación, es información. I had heard from earlier in the year that Neymar was on Inter Miami's radar and that they were keeping an eye on him at Santos over the course of 2025 to see how he held up physically, to see if his health would be trending in a better direction, because obviously Neymar's had a lot of injury issues in recent years. If he showed positive signs, there was serious interest in bringing him in 2026, reuniting the all too famous MSN that we know from the Barcelona days of Messi, Suarez, Neymar. Neymar hasn't been the healthiest this year. I still think that they're going to take a look at him because that will help generate. This part is supposition. I do think they'll take a look because he's out of contract in December. He wouldn't cost you any transfer fee, and he would drum up a hell of a lot of interest for Inter Miami as they open their new stadium. That MSN reunion, even though they're past their primes, still would generate a lot of buzz worldwide, especially. So I think it's something they'll look at. I don't know if they go with it or not. We'll see. But the control part is definitely a talking point. We'll see how the decisions are made. We'll see if things improve. Because again, on the field right
Yeah,
now,
listen, that's what I
things have
said.
gotten better, but
Until
they're not
now,
winning.
and when we're until now, it has not been a success. For me, the Supporter Shield doesn't count. It's a nice record to have, yes, but that's not a trophy. And Leagues Cup, it doesn't exist also. They won it, yes, and that first year it was interesting, but that's it. It's not an important trophy. They haven't won anything to justify the investment until now. They can win MLS this year, of course. Yes, they can do it, and that would be a success. That would be different. But until now, it hasn't happened. And what we have been seeing of the players that they're bringing, all of course, everyone jokes with me when they see them that Inter Miami is just an Argentina, a sucursal Argentina, because they are only bringing players from out, and it's something that I criticize because in MLS it's very difficult to win if you don't have players with experience of knowing how it is to play in the league and the taxing season, the long season, then the playoffs, and all that plays a part. So we'll see how this keeps building. Messi has control already with we have talked about it, about the sporting director and everything in the club. So it will be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see, but it definitely is. It's something that you don't see as much in MLS because we've seen stars come here and we've seen stars be the center of their team, but I think we've never, and even in the NBA or other sports, we have never seen this kind of control here in the United States. I mean, of a single player. And
You used the
we
word
can
control. You used the word. You went with the C word, control. Well, for David Beckham, the C word he used is commitment. Lionel Messi's commitment over the next 3 years. Let's listen to David Beckham, what he had to say about Messi's renewal.
You know, I think being here in the stadium that we're building for the city and we're building for our fans and building for the club is already so special. And to now have Leo sign a new contract, be here, you know, for the next few years is even more special. You know, you build a stadium and you expect people to come. You bring in someone like Leo, you know, a few years ago, like we did, and then you have him stay for the rest of his career. You know, that says something about the club. It says something about the city. But what it says is about Leo's commitment. You know, the fact that Leo loves the city, he loves Miami, he loves playing in the MLS, he loves being in Miami and loves this club. It's a very special moment for us.
No translation needed from David Beckham there, who has not appeared either in a soundbite on this show in, I think, a few years. It's been a few years since, he used to do press conferences at the
Yeah,
start of
since
seasons with
Messi
us.
came, he hasn't talked with us a lot, David Beckham.
He's adopting the Messi ways.
So,
By the way, quick little sidebar related to David Beckham. I ran into his daughter at Horrorland in Miami on Jungle Island. I ran into them on Sunday night. Ran into her Sunday night. I didn't even recognize her. Honestly, I wouldn't have been able to pick her out. I don't follow
gossip.
What's it called? Yeah, I don't follow
You're
gossip.
not
I
a
don't follow
paparazzi.
that. I don't follow that farandula in that manner. But it was me and my missus and my friend and his wife. And my friend's wife pointed out that she was in the car next to us, and then we were in the elevator together. I did ask her if she was Harper, and she did say yes. I told her to say hi to David from Franco at Inter Miami, and that was it. That was our exchange. I hope she had fun at the Halloween event. I had a good time. But anyway, Beckham talks about Messi's commitment. Another 3 years. Now, Messi did do an interview with NBC in recent days, and it was released, I think, on yesterday, Tuesday, maybe, or maybe it was Monday. Can't remember. In it, one of the highlights, besides the nonsense BS line that they're trying to sell about he doesn't know if he's going to play in the World Cup, that he still hasn't made that decision. Besides that nonsense, the one line that really people grabbed onto was that he thinks MLS can take that next step by loosening the purse strings, by allowing teams to sign the players that they want to sign. So he made it clear that he thinks this forced parity, it's got to go. A lot of people think that way. A lot of people think at least it should be less restrictive, even if it still is to exist. So obviously, we've talked about that a long time. Andrea, this is a positive. I think this is a positive. So, and we will talk about Don Garber's comments that Jose shared over the weekend. We've known that MLS needs to make changes.
Everyone in MLS would think that's a positive because I understand, and I've been an advocate that MLS needs to make some changes, but you cannot just come here and expect to open MLS up and it to survive. It isn't that simple. It isn't that.
But it should open up, Andrea. But it should
open up, yes.
If
but
Messi
not in the manner that.
But if
Messi wants.
if Messi is the guy that finally helps drive that,
I don't think he will. Listen,
I don't know. Don Garber's comments to Jose were very
but Don
interesting.
Garber is one thing, but the owners are other things. The comment that Don Garber made to Jose made a lot of people mad because they think that
they weren't great.
That Don Garber is favoring Inter Miami, right? And not favoring the league. And at the end of the day, the ones that make the decision are all the owners. If it depended on owners like Jorge Mas and other owners that want to invest, yes, they will do it. But you have to see that we are 6 months away from a World Cup practically, and they haven't made any changes because unfortunately MLS is still not in the position to be able to make those changes. They cannot all happen at the same time, and we are hearing talks about the calendar changing next year, and they are not going to change the calendar, they are not going to change the DP rule, and they're not going to change the salary cap and the spending cap all in a year. So I understand that Messi wants that changed, but I don't know. I don't want to give people false hope that it's going to be possible. He's already almost 3 years here, and absolutely nothing has changed except the rule of the under 22 and a little bit of more gam.
Now is the moment where he can really influence things. The initial stint was the introduction. Now it's the legacy.
And that's something I want to touch because David Beckham said something. I wrote it here. He loves the city and loves the community and loves Miami. I don't think that people feel that way here in Miami, to tell you the truth. Because, yes, Messi is happy here in Miami, but he hasn't done anything for the community. Have you seen Messi or his family go to a community, help people in food banks? Like, for example, the Dolphins, Tua. Everyone hates Tua, but Tua is in the community, is in Miami doing stuff for the people here. The Miami Heat do stuff for the people. Even the Florida Panthers do stuff for people here. You haven't seen Messi do that here.
Messi
And
not the hands-on community type. So I understand the point you're trying to make, but I think Beckham's point is that the Latino and larger community here in South Florida has embraced him and welcomed him and taken kindly to his time here, which I think if you talk about the Hispanic community, by and large, yes.
Yeah.
Does the American community care all that much? Probably indifferent, generally speaking. But anyway, going back to the point, I think that if Messi helps push things in the direction that a lot of us, I think you're included in this, Andrea, that we want to see MLS go to, then I think that that is a big deal. I think that is a big part of what legacy he could leave behind, that he helped finally force MLS to turn the page or to graduate to the next level in terms of how it operates. Now, I agree with you. I don't expect MLS to completely do away with the salary cap structure, to do away with the parity or a playoff system. But I do
the
think
league wouldn't survive. It's that
I
simple.
do think MLS with Messi's influence can potentially change for the better.
Yes.
Hopefully, we will see, because of Inter
It's the
Miami,
moment.
I don't know if things have gotten for the better in terms of the
Yeah, that's
influence
what
that
I
Messi
was
has.
saying. I don't think that owners in MLS are completely happy with that. And okay, that's valid because they're putting in their money, right? And they are not liking what they are seeing. And that's something, because you need for the rules to change, you need all the owners, or at least the majority of owners, to be in accordance to that. And Messi is going to be an owner, so
But it was
I think
telling, Andrea, it was telling that Don Garber, and this is where I wanted to bring a hostess quote, which I don't have the video to share because it's not my video. It is Deporte Total USA's video. Check out Deporte Total USA if you haven't already, or if you don't do so regularly. Jose puts up a lot of good stuff there. In there, you will see a clip with Don Garber from before the match against Nashville SC this past weekend. Don Garber, MLS commissioner, was in town at Chase Stadium to present Messi with the golden boot, pose for the camera, take the pretty picture, so on and so forth. One of the questions that was asked was about capitalizing on Messi's presence. And Don Garber's response was polarizing, as well as it was interesting, because he responds, and I'm just going to give you a clip of it, or a quick piece of it. Quote, I think in many ways it's not about that. It's about being able to provide him with the kind of league he will be honored to play in. End quote. So he's directly saying it's not about us capitalizing on Messi's presence. It's about making Messi feel fulfilled with the league he has. And I think that is telling, and it shines a light into what we may see over the next 3 years. I think things are going to change. Again, I'm not saying they will drastically change across the board, but I think we will see some changes. And I think if Messi is the one that helps promote that, or cause that change, or spark that change, then that's a big impact. That's a big impact. But they do have to win on the field. We still need Inter Miami to win on the field. We still need to see that in order for his tenure here in South Florida to be considered a success. His tenure in MLS in general to be deemed a success. But go ahead. Anything you want to add to that before we start changing gears?
Good. I agree. MLS is already 3 years. Messi is almost a year. 3 years too late. No changes, nothing. So once the World Cup is gone, as I always say here, once the World Cup is gone, let's see what MLS has to do, because other leagues here are proposing stuff that's gonna be interesting, and MLS cannot lag behind.
Pedri Potter, free speech, says facts from Don Garber. Pedri Potter is clearly in the Messi camp of loves what Messi does, and what we criticize him, he tends to have a go at us, which is, hey, it's fair game. We welcome it. All good. All right, Andrea, let's switch gears. Let's talk some football, some soccer. Inter Miami posted a professional, a businesslike, a sound 3-1 victory over Nashville in the first of the best of 3 series to start the playoffs. Lionel Messi with the brace in the game. The other goal came from Tadeo Allende. Nashville didn't score until late on. A golazo from Henny
The
Mukhtar
best goal in the
off,
night.
off of a
Yannick
free
Bright.
kick. But it was too little too late. For a Nashville side that did not look particularly good. Nashville.
No, really, the game was not as good. Inter Miami got the win. And let's say the third goal, Messi's second goal, the third goal was a gift. This is the second goal that Willis, this time it was not Willis' fault. I think Zimmerman is more to blame. But this is the second goal that he gives Messi because in the regular season game, he the same thing happened. They gifted a goal to Lionel Messi and they ended up winning that game because of that goal. And this goal was very important for Inter Miami because it's not the same when Hani Mukhtar scored when there were a couple of minutes left for them to be 3-1 than for them to have been 2-1. So I think that the positive thing that Inter Miami can take from this game is that they scored the goals and they won, but it was like a deuce. The game, the first half, I almost fell asleep. It was just horrendous game.
So, because I know
Nashville were horrible.
This is where it will get a little spicier in terms of our opinions and our analysis. And I mean, maybe the Messi segment had some opinions that some people will nod their head in agreement with, and some people will be like, "What are they talking about?" But the game was not a good game. Inter Miami won. They got off on the right foot, and for Inter Miami, it's a positive. But the game was not a good game. It was not an entertaining game. I agree with you. It was like watching paint dry. That's almost how bad it was. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it wasn't a good spectacle. No fue un buen espectáculo. And I had a chat with a former MLS player that was in attendance that normally doesn't attend Inter Miami games despite being in market. And the message I got back was, felt like a regular season game. It just didn't have the intensity. It didn't have the vibe of a playoff game. I don't know how to describe it for maybe people who watch the show that don't go to the stadium or aren't in market. And I first started covering MLS. There's just a different feeling in the air when it's a playoff game. It's just like a different buzz, a different vibe, a different sensation. And I saw that when I covered the Red Bulls. But in this game, before the game, during the game, after the game, you just didn't get that vibe. Now, again, Inter Miami took care of business. We'll talk about the performances there. But it wasn't a great game. It wasn't a sold-out house, which was, even though it's a Friday night, is still not acceptable when you have Messi and his star-studded cast of teammates. But on the field, Inter Miami did what they had to do. They win the game. They are one win away from advancing to the next round. Based on what we've seen from Nashville, not only in this game, but in the regular season finale before, they stand no chance of beating Inter Miami. Now, I said this a year ago against Atlanta, and then Atlanta obviously did what they did and stunned Inter Miami in the best of 3 series and eliminated the South Florida team. But I don't see Nashville doing that this year.
Even though this Nashville team, in theory, in paper at least, has better players in Hani Mukhtar and Sturridge than what Atlanta had last year, but I don't think it's happening. Even though you have those players, I think Nashville played horribly. BJ Callaghan disappointed me with what they came and show in this game with Inter Miami, because it was just horrendous. And Inter Miami also disappointed me because when you get a team that plays that way that Nashville did, then Inter Miami should have scored 5 in the first half, and they didn't. And that's something concerning for the rest of the playoffs, because this Inter Miami team can be like that. They got the win against Nashville, and that's really important, but I don't think Mascherano is 100% happy with the performance of the team, because against a better team, they're going to be more pressed. A team that attacks them, for example, like Cincinnati or Philadelphia or Charlotte, whoever they get to play on the way for the Eastern Conference champion, championship game, it's gonna be completely different than Nashville. So this was a good result and a good start for the playoff, but I don't think it's something to build on. What Inter Miami showed, because at the end of the day, you won it on a Messi brilliance,
And
and
that's
that's
where the beautiful game is so nuanced, and where we can talk for days and analyze for days and debate for days. Because on paper, in the last 2 games against Nashville, Inter Miami has outscored the opposition 8-3. Now, in the first half of the regular season finale, Nashville played very well. Second half of that game, not so much. And in this game,
the penalty of
with a
Andy
change,
changed that game.
this game, Nashville didn't look
It was
good
horrendous
at all. Now, you would expect more from Sam Sturridge. You'd expect more from Jacob Schaffelberg. Hani Mukhtar had his
Oh,
moments,
let's say that
although he doesn't look.
Schaffelberg had 2 chances at the beginning that
Early
he
on,
should
he
have
had-
put away.
Yes.
And that played a part also, because if those chances, it would have been interesting to see Inter Miami if those chances went in, if Schaffelberg didn't miss. Those 2 chances were clear. If Messi or even Tadeo Allende, who hasn't have a great aim, would have scored those 2 goals. And I think that's something to think about for Mascherano, because his team, yes, they won, but if Nashville, for any other place, is changes tactics for the second game and plays like they played, it could make things interesting for the second game. I don't expect that to happen, because
Inter Miami
it
just
should
looks
exactly
a cut above Nashville.
a cut
SC.
above them, exactly.
Again,
And
Nashville in that first game looked dangerous in the first half.
exactly, but
they
should play that way.
If they get back
And
to
in that first game, exactly, that first game changed, as I told you, because of Andy's Nahar penalty, his handball, that was called a penalty. That game changed in that moment, because after they scored, Messi scored a penalty, that game changed forever, and Nashville se vino abajo. But if they play like they played
that's
half,
key though, Andrea. That's key.
Yeah.
Because the way they finished that regular season finale seems to have impacted how they approach this game, because they tactically changed things.
Yeah, they brought Brian Acosta in. They brought a defensive midfielder in, an extra defensive midfielder in, because BJ Callahan was, I guess, scared. I don't know if that's the correct word. Concerned. Exactly. So that's why he made that change and brought Brian Acosta in, who hadn't been playing that many minutes. So he brought a Brian Acosta in, and Brian Acosta is a defensive midfielder. So I think that played a part, and
that
I
took
would
away
expect
from that took away from the la generación de fútbol. That took away from their ability 100%. To generate soccer. Which, look, Inter Miami will take that all day. And they play the opponent they have in front of them, and Mascherano did the job. But like you said, and this is, again, going back to my point that I never finished, was in football, in the beautiful game in soccer, you're judged by 2 things: results and performances. Resultados y rendimiento. Well, Inter Miami had the results. They sacaron el resultado. Pero el rendimiento no fue muy bueno. The performance was not great. And Mascherano even talked about that after the game. Talked about improving going forward. Let's listen to Javier Mascherano here, and we'll continue after that.
Claramente no nos va a alcanzar. Tenemos que seguir mejorando. Tenemos que cada vez más, mientras, digamos, es decir, mientras los partidos se van dando, el margen de error tiene que ser cada vez menos. Y vamos a seguir sosteniendo eso. Es decir, no nos tenemos que conformar con lo de hoy. Hay un gran margen de mejora que lo podemos seguir sosteniendo. Estamos contentos porque el equipo viene evolucionando, pero el equipo puede seguir mejorando. Y sobre todo entender que como se puede disfrutar de jugar y de tener la pelota, también se puede disfrutar de defender. Siempre y cuando nosotros controlemos la situación y no la controle el rival. Y es fundamental que para controlar la situación es comunicarse, es hablarse, es estar juntos y sobre todo disfrutarlo. Es decir, cuando no tengo la pelota, controlar la situación. Más allá que el rival la tenga, no me haces daño, te digo yo dónde vas a jugar, no me marcas vos dónde vas a jugar. Bueno, todas esas cosas que venimos tratando de transmitirle al equipo, tratar de seguir en esa línea y seguir mejorando.
So to translate, paraphrase, he starts out by saying we can't conform, we can't be okay with the performance, that we need to get better as the playoffs go on. But then Mascherano says we also have to learn to enjoy playing without the ball as much as we can enjoy playing with the ball. And he talks about dictating the position the opposition will be in, and a lot of defensive elements, a lot of defensive, what's the word I'm looking for? Defensive, not philosophy.
Structure.
No, bueno, anyway, doesn't matter. The defensive concepts, a lot of defensive concepts there from Mascherano in his remarks, which again, it's not a surprise here. We know he is more of a defensive-minded coach than an attacking-minded coach. But he kind of contradicted himself in saying we got to play better, but we also have to enjoy defending. Okay, interesting. Andrea.
It's interesting to see because he knows what we were talking about. You pass Nashville, and then you're gonna get different types of opponents, whoever you are going to play in the next round and in the final if you get there.
I don't see Nashville in the second leg at home. Inter Miami travels on Saturday, first day of November. I don't see Nashville.
It will be a surprise like Atlanta was last year, because Nashville, yes, they showed that first half, that good first half, but they couldn't maintain it. And that because of a penalty. Sorry.
Salud.
Because of a penalty, gracias. But they have not shown to be able to maintain that tactical tranquility that Atlanta had last year. I have not seen that from Nashville, even though if they scored a goal against Inter Miami, I don't think they can close up a game as well as Atlanta did last year, because they were very organized, and I haven't seen that simply from Nashville. So I think this is gonna be easy for Inter Miami to go there to Tennessee and get the win on Saturday. That's just how I see it.
I do think that Nashville will try to return to what we saw in that first half. Not saying they'll go all out as well, but I think they'll try to play a bit more like they did in that first half of the regular season finale, as opposed to being this more defensive and pragmatic team, because that just allowed Inter Miami to dictate its terms. Now, of course, when they analyze the film, they're going to say early on, Schaffelberg had opportunities and he didn't put them away. He had a terrible night. So maybe that could lend them into thinking that they could try that again. But given that, they
need to win.
Right.
I don't
Están
think
con la soga al
they're gonna
cuello. Their backs are against the ropes. They've got the noose around their neck. They're going to have to try to play a bit more. So I think we'll see maybe Nashville that tries to be more like what we saw in the regular season finale. Not saying exactly the same, but more like that than what we saw in this first playoff match. But I still don't think it'll be enough. I think Inter Miami will take care of business. Now, Andrea, one of the big talking points from this game, from a player standpoint, again, we know what Messi did. He got 2 goals, was involved in the other one. He got credited with a secondary assist, but you know how we feel about secondary assists here on this podcast. One other player was Rocco Rios Novo, who, as we predicted on last week's show, got the start after being the incumbent during the last 3 games of the regular season. Before we go into our thoughts here on Rocco Rios Novo, let's listen to Javier Mascherano when he was asked about the decision to start Rios Novo over veteran Oscar Ustari.
Es una decisión técnica. Bueno, al final tenemos, tenemos un entrenador de arquero que obviamente tengo diálogo constante con él, me va diciendo y me apoyo mucho en sus opiniones. Claramente las decisiones las tomo yo. Y bueno, y la realidad es que veíamos a Rocco bien, eso no significa que Oscar esté mal, ni mucho menos. Es una decisión más de todas las que tomo, para eso estoy acá. Y bueno, decidimos seguir con Rocco.
So to
You see, I don't believe
paraphrase,
Javier Mascherano there because, oh yeah.
sorry, to
translate.
translate very quickly or paraphrase, he says that it's just a technical decision, that he talks to his goalkeeping coach, and that was the decision that Mascherano made. One of many decisions that he's tasked with making game in and game out. At the end, he says, just because Rocco Rios Novo is doing well doesn't mean Ustadi's doing bad. It's just a decision that I made. Very quickly, I will add, this is not what he said, but very quickly, just my observation from covering Mascherano all year, he's very careful about trying not to leave any interpretation that he's bad-mouthing his players or any of his players. But it's clear, Andrea, I think, that something happened. Something
I
has
asked
happened.
him point blank, ¿cuál es el misterio? What is this nonsense that you cannot say? If you're going to start, what I don't understand about Mascherano is this, and I don't know if people are going to agree with me or not, or you're going to agree with me or not, that when Drake was here and we asked him these questions, and he said, I don't like changing goalkeeper. I'm not that style of a coach. And now you come to the most important part of the season and you made the change in your goalkeeper, and you cannot answer why, or that simply you think Rocco is better. Even here, he didn't say, oh, I think it's better. He took it on the goalkeeper coach. He said practically that he told him that Rocco was better. So my problem with this is that when Drake was here, no era el mismo cuento, because why Drake, being a national team in that moment, a national team player, didn't get the option to prove himself, and Rocco is now getting 4 games in a row when you said before that you didn't want to change goalkeepers and that you only played one. So what happened? Why simply he cannot answer, and he cannot answer straight. My problem is that because if he would have said here in this press conference, yes, the goalkeeper coach says he's better, Rocco is doing a little bit better, and I agree, then that would be the end of it. But he didn't say that. He tried to justify that it doesn't mean Ustari is bad, blah, 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 blah. So my problem is that why don't you have the same approach? If you said at the beginning of the year you only played one goalkeeper, you didn't want to make changes, why now in the most important part of the season you bring someone that doesn't have experience and you see your most experienced goalkeeper? So that's what I don't like.
So I don't agree with that at all. I get your point that maybe there's a lack of consistency from Mascherano in his thought process. I don't know if I share that criticism here because I think they're different scenarios. But I do agree that something
he
happened.
said that he didn't like changing goalkeepers. Now he likes it in the most important part of the season.
Again, that's why I'm saying I do think something has happened. Now I'm not going to say behind the scenes Oscar Ustadi fell out of favor because he did something wrong. But I mean, clearly his form wasn't at his best before this recent benching. But was it that bad to make the change to go with a younger goalkeeper who doesn't have much seasoning in the most important time of the year? Exactly. That's why it's a big bet for Mascherano, una gran apuesta, but it just doesn't make sense fully to me. The thought process, the rationale behind it. Ustadi definitely dipped in his performance levels, but was it that bad that you bring in the unseasoned, potentially mistake-prone?
And let's say that people are saying that Rocco hasn't been. They have played against Nashville and bad teams the last games. He hasn't been challenged. And he was challenging Hani Mukhtar's
free kick,
tiro libre, and failed. So that's a big bet in this team against other teams. I don't know. I like Rocco. I think he's a nice person and a goalkeeper that has potential, but I still don't see in the field that security that a goalkeeper gives you. like that presence that a goalkeeper has. Like, for example, if you tell me any other team in the playoffs, Stephen Frey, or we saw them in penalties, Frey and St. Clair of Minnesota the other day, you can see that those are goalkeepers that have confidence and have experience and all of that. But I don't see that with Rocco. So it's a very interesting bet to do a change here in the playoffs when you're fighting for the title.
Dolph Ignition 7176 says, sorry it's been such a long time. Life got busier. Gonna miss Chase Stadium, crying emoji. Hope to see Akisita 2026 when Hard Rock Stadium hosts some World Cup games. Remember, December 5th. And Vamos Herons. I think Dolph Ignition is the one that ran into you at the stadium at Hard Rock. I think during maybe
very nice
Copa
to
America.
have you back. Hoping to see you soon. I will be there tomorrow.
Hopefully it has been a while for Dolph Ignition to
nice to have him back
and give us some comments. King.Callum says, why Calendar didn't get the same treatment and chance? Clearly because of this flag Argentina emoji.
That is my problem with it, because it was the same situation, and Drake Callender was a national team goalkeeper in the moment that they bench him, and they never, Mascherano, I mean, his technical staff didn't even give him a chance. He had to leave. And now you give the chance to the goalkeeper who doesn't have experience, who hasn't played playoffs, who hasn't been the starting goalkeeper of any team, and you bench Ustari, for whom you changed the national team goalkeeper for, and said that you didn't give him a chance because you didn't like to change goalkeeper. So that's the consistency that leads us to think that something happens, and that's how rumor starts. And I think that Mascherano is not doing a good job, because I asked him the day before he was asked here, and he cannot give a straight answer. So this leads to speculation, and unfortunately, it is what it is.
It definitely seems like there's something else to it. We'll see. But right now, it's Rocco Rios Novo's turn in goal. I would say he's been serviceable to this point during his stretch. Probably serviceable to good, but I don't know if he has the
it's been Atlanta
game saving, or the game. Well, yeah, the game saving stop in him. I don't know if he has that in his bag, in his repertoire at this point. And hopefully, for Inter Miami's sake, that doesn't come back to bite them later on when the games become one-offs, when you're gonna maybe need a big save here to keep you in a match or to protect the lead. We'll see. Andrea, after the game, we talked to, two players, and that was Maximiliano Peluca Falcon and Rodrigo De Paul. And Rodrigo De Paul, very interestingly, made it seem like he is definitely going to be back next year, which is really no surprise to anyone who's been paying attention. But officially, there can't be a guaranteed promise to buy him from Atletico Madrid per MLS rules, because otherwise that would make him a DP this year, and Inter Miami already has the maximum of 3. Now, those
are the things that people in MLS don't like, and that's why they don't change the rules, because Messi says so. That is the problem, because the perception that people, and I'm not saying fans, I'm talking about owners, GMs, and other players in this league, they just don't like that, because with De Paul saying that if you listen to if you're a Messi fan and you just watch MLS because of Messi and you don't know anything about the league, I understand that you don't get how a big deal this is, but him saying that is a big deal, because like you said, according to the rules, he cannot be talking as if he has a contract, because Inter Miami in this moment is not paying at least all of his salary. They are just paying some of it because they have already 3 DPs for this year.
It's very convoluted. It's very difficult to
people hear this and they are saying rules. That's why they say, and fans in this, I'm talking about fans now, that's why MLS fans don't like Inter Miami, because they're saying, oh, they are admitting that they're haciendo trampa and no one does anything. And because of things like De Paul says,
well, I mean, let's be honest, Andrea. Let's be honest.
He doesn't know.
I mean, Rodrigo De Paul, when he was acquired on loan, I mean, the Atletico Madrid press release said pretty much, "Ciao, Rodrigo De Paul." It wasn't like, "Hey, we'll see you. We'll maybe see you next year. Las puertas están abiertas." No, it was just okay, bye-bye to Rodrigo De Paul. So, I mean, everything pointed to Rodrigo De Paul sticking around with Inter Miami. Now, did they bend some rules and, wink and look the other way in terms of MLS? I mean, yeah, probably, right? I mean, MLS is not going to risk pissing off Messi and not having him get one of the players he wants in town because of the rules. They're going to look the other way. They're going to come up with some creative accounting to say publicly to the general audience. Now, obviously, people who pay close attention, they smell bullshit.
Exactly.
They call out bullshit. But generally speaking, there's not that much pressure in MLS from media and from fans by and large. So while there's a few noisy bunch in terms of the fans and a few noisy bunch in the media, such as ourselves, there's just not enough pressure for it to really matter. And MLS will bend the rules, and they have a history of bending rules to favor teams. And this clearly looks like it. Let's listen to Rodrigo De Paul. I actually didn't even ask him anything of the like. I just asked him about Messi's 2-goal performance and receiving the golden boot. And then solito, on his own, he just lets it slip that he's like, yeah, I get to stick around with him for longer, and I get to enjoy him up close for longer. I get to continue to share the field with him. He said that on his own. It wasn't even a question to try to catch him slipping. He just slipped it in there on his own. Yeah, so.
Muy bien. Siempre es un placer jugar al lado de él. La verdad que tenerlo en el equipo, jugamos con ventaja, la verdad. Contento por su renovación, porque vamos a seguir compartiendo cancha, y lo voy a poder seguir disfrutando de cerquita, así que muy feliz que también hizo 2 goles y que sobre todo ayudó para que el equipo gane.
Now, Andrea, I already paraphrased pretty much before the soundbite, but we have to talk about another Rodrigo De Paul topic, and that is his little excursion to Argentina in the immediate aftermath of Friday night's match against Nashville SC. Rodrigo De Paul was spotted in Argentina at a concert where his girlfriend, Tini, was performing. So 24 hours or so after performing and competing at a good level, mind you, against an overmatched Nashville SC team, he flew, I imagine, first class or private jet. Maybe he asked Messi, hey, che, me prestas el avión? Maybe he asked him for that private jet to fly all the way down to Argentina to take part in his girlfriend's concert. Now, again, this is MLS. We know things fly under the radar. There's not much criticism that, again, makes a difference from fans and media, because it's just not the sheer volume. And frankly, a lot of people just don't care that much. They just see it for what it is. But am I alone in thinking that this is mind-boggling? That in the middle of a
100%.
playoff series,
He
es
wouldn't
una
have done that
cachetada
if he
a la
was still
seriedad.
an Atlético de Madrid.
Es una
100%.
cachetada a la seriedad, Andrea.
100%.
Nowhere else in the world
No.
is he doing this. Nowhere else
No.
in the world. Now, look,
No.
fair game to Rodrigo De Paul. If MLS and Inter Miami allow him to do it, or it's written in their contract,
They had
fair game
they
to him.
always have 2 days, but you don't do that. You don't fly all the way to Argentina. That's like going to Europe from Miami, going the same as Miami Madrid is Miami Buenos Aires, and you're in the middle of a playoff series. That is just, for me, disappointing.
Imagine if they would have lost. Imagine
Exactly.
he still fly to Argentina and he's like, hey, I'm acá, estoy acá, chévere,
That's
acá, toma
something
la
that
foto.
that's why people don't like it. I come again with the same, ya parezco disco rayado, pero that's why people don't like Inter Miami, because they do these things, the players, and people feel like they are not taking stuff seriously. And how can you argue with that if you are traveling all those miles and coming back and then having to play a game later on? And just to party, not even to play with because when you play with a national team, well, it is agreed that you're playing and that's part of your job and you get paid to play with your national team. But here you're going to party to a concert, so it's a bad
Que-
look
que-
not only
que
for
falta de
him, but it's
seriedad.
a bad look for the whole team. They can say, yes, they had a free day, they want to aprovechar. And listen to me, if someone when players in the NBA or NFL get caught partying, I have seen players get caught for less than that. Of course, that's not gonna happen here, but it's disrespectful. It's 100%
It is
disrespectful with the team, the league, and everything, the
it is a
competition and everything.
slap in the face to the seriousness of this time of the year.
Yeah.
But again, fair game to
I mean-
Rodrigo De Paul if it was written in his contract that he gets to gallivant over to Argentina to go see his girlfriend on
That's
a whim
good.
if he
I
wants
want a
to.
job like that, please.
Hey,
Someone
fair game.
hire me.
Fair game to Rodrigo De Paul. I
So
don't
I
blame
can go
Rodrigo
3
De
days
Paul.
to Honduras and then come to work only 2 days.
I don't blame Rodrigo De Paul.
He's a good boyfriend, though. That's
I
good.
do-
He's a good
I
boyfriend.
blame Inter Miami and I blame MLS because
100%.
that should not
100%.
be happening. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're in the most
100%.
important
at
time
least
of the
if you're
year.
gonna do that, you cannot be. You remember, like, let me put an example. You remember when and that's how you know that no one cares about MLS, because you remember when Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce began dating and he went and watched her, I don't know, in Brazil or something like that. People were losing their minds. Fans and media in the NFL were losing their minds because that's not, and that was having a bye week. Imagine if he had done that being in the playoffs of the NFL. But
I
it is what it is.
imagine
That's why I tell you this. There is no seriousness in this, and sometimes I get frustrated because we put all the seriousness in this, and they don't care.
I imagine that Rodrigo De Paul had all the luxuries in the world and that he was allowed to rest and get proper sleep and good sleep and all the things that a professional athlete can have at his disposal, especially at that level.
Pero
But
mías
it's
son
still
mías.
not
Miles are miles.
something. It's still not something you do in the middle of a playoff series that will determine your season. Again, if they lost, what happens? He still goes? I mean, no one cares, right? No one cares.
Yeah.
But because they won and because, it's acceptable. It's acceptable. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And that
It really
it is embarrassing. It is a
And
bad
with
look.
his teammates also, when you
Oh,
get Yannick
absolutely.
Bright saying that he was
Absolutely.
barely surviving, and then you get these guys hopping on a private plane and going and coming back like it's nothing, and then you got their teammates who he shares the field with saying that he was struggling to survive. So, well, it is
Nick
what
Smith
it is.
says
That's
bad
MLS
look.
for you.
Nick Smith -IMCF says bad look ? LOL. Who cares what he does on his days off? They play a kids game for millions of dollars. Well, that attitude, Nick, is why the game is where it is in this country, because they are professional athletes. And with being a professional athlete, there are sacrifices that you have to make.
Michael
Their
Jordan gave an
priority.
interview yesterday in Peacock. I encourage everyone to go listen to him. The real GOAT, Michael Jordan speaking. And he spoke on this, spoke on the responsibility of players and talking about load management and players not wanting to play games, player traveling and missing stuff. Go and listen to that, because he has a nice perspective and a perspective that's applicable not only for the NBA but for these situations, because you're a player, you're a professional, you're getting paid millions of dollars to do this. You should put the same into being a professional than as someone that has a 9-to-5 job, and it's
They are
disappointing.
professional athletes, right? And with that comes sacrifice. You get millions of dollars.
Yes.
You get access to the finest flights and jets and hotels and meals, and you are in shape and all these great things that come with being a professional player. But there are also sacrifices you have to make. He would not do this if he was with Argentina in the midst of a tournament. He would not do this if he was at Atletico Madrid. Es falta de seriedad completamente. It is embarrassing. It is a bad look, but hey, again, fair game to him. Last thing I'll say on the subject is, I'm sure Inter Miami would come out and say, oh, well, he had all the best amenities. He got to rest, and he had a private flight with a lot ample space, so it's no big deal. He was able to get back and all this. Listen, a professional athlete, after just playing in a game, the focus needs to be on rest and recovery. That's what professional athletes have to do. That's why in other countries, if you see a player out and about on the weekend, they get
That will be you're
crucified
canceled forever.
in the media,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not what you're supposed to be doing. But again,
Yeah.
if it's written in the contract and if Inter Miami and MLS allow him to do it, fair game to Rodrigo De Paul. Shame on MLS. Shame on Inter Miami. Terrible look. Terrible look.
I want to
Anyway.
read a comment that I just got on my
Mhm.
phone because I think it's funny. Lloyd, who always comments on the podcast, and we thank him, says the Heron won last game. So that's clearly someone else dressed up as Andrea for Halloween. I broke
Fair.
the streak.
Fair.
Of
That's right.
coming in.
Andrea had the perception that she only appeared after losses, but here she is after a win. All right. Switching gears, because we've talked about the Nashville game. We predict Inter Miami to win this weekend in Nashville. Very quickly, we'll touch on a couple of players. One is Yannick Bright, who signed a contract extension, the long anticipated, long discussed contract extension for the midfielder. It is through the 2028 season with an team option for 2029. He spoke earlier today, Wednesday, about signing the contract. You actually mentioned it earlier when he said it was actually kind of tough to live on his $80K a year in South Florida. But let's listen to Yannick Bright, a very smiley and happy Yannick Bright, talk about finally putting pen to paper on a deal that will pay him more than $80K a year.
Well, first of all, it feels great. It's a big relief, I think, from a mental point of view. Secures like such a deal, and yeah, I'm not gonna buy anything myself, probably. I don't know. I'm not like that. Probably to my mom or something. But and yeah, it just feels good. Like I said, it's a big relief. Even living wise, it was kind of a struggle before, so hopefully it's going to be much better right now. And yeah, I'm happy.
So you might get a new place to live, maybe.
We'll see. I got a long lease, so I don't know, but
Andrea, a deserved contract for Yannick
100%.
Bright, a deserved raise. We don't know what that raise
It was
is.
a travesty, and I've said it here, and we've said it, Jose, Alonso, everyone. It was a travesty that Yannick Bright was making just $80,000 a year to take taxes away. I bet he was struggling living here in South Florida. I'm really glad for him. He deserves it, completely deserves it, and he has earned it with the minutes he has played. He has become an important player for Inter Miami.
Kadabor says, good for, I don't know why I said it that way. Good for Bright. Well-deserved criminal. He was making so little.
Yes.
Henry Potter, wow, with a positive comment here. It's not about Messi. He says, Bright is a good guy, deserved it 100%. 100%, I agree.
100%.
I think everyone pretty much agrees that Bright deserved this. Obviously, $80K was probably among the best value deals that existed in MLS for what Yannick Bright provides this team. He's not a starter right now. He's not an in-game, every game starter, but he is a key part of this group, and he will be, it looks like, for the foreseeable future. Now, we know that Inter Miami has shown a tendency in the past to sign, I don't want to say American
Hopefully
players,
it
because
happens
Yannick Bright,
for Yannick. I'm crossing my fingers
Well,
because I think
Yannick's
he will
not
deserve
American,
it.
but
And
Yannick is part
I
of
asked
the
him that
American.
he already has the European passport. He could play anywhere in Europe without any problems. And Calabor is saying, will the extend curse happen? Hopefully it happens for Yannick Bright. If I get happy, I would get happy if it happens to Yannick Bright and either of the young guys that have come through the academy that are part of this team, because I think they all deserve it, and they have that advantage that
Well,
they
for
have.
those that don't know what the
other
extension
passports.
curse is, Inter Miami in recent years, especially leading up to Messi's arrival, has shown a habit, a penchant for re-signing players from the American system. Now, Yannick Bright's not American, but he's part of the American system because he attended college, and that's what helped him go pro. And those players, after re-signing or agreeing to extensions or new deals, shortly thereafter are traded.
Not even just Americans. Also, it happened with Gregory.
I said American system. I said American system.
American
But Gregory wouldn't be part of the American system. But
Kamal
think-
Miller. It
I
happened
think
with Kamal Miller.
I think most people are happy for Yannick Bright. I think most people think he deserves it. 80K as a professional athlete is
Criminal.
tough. It's tough.
Because I don't know how he survived in South Florida, man. With the rents, how they are here, I understand why he has a long lease.
I mean,
But-
listen. I know Yannick. I think Yannick Bright has a girlfriend. But I don't know. How he was doing in terms of taking her out and whatnot. Because 80K is tough to get by on. Especially when you live in South Florida with the cost of living over here.
And you being a foreign-born person, because you have to get everything, you don't have anyone that helps you. It's really difficult, and I admire him because he has earned his place. I think and he has earned his contract, and I'm glad that they did, and especially for them, because it's also, if anyone wanted to sign Yannick Bright, they would have gotten him for free. And now Inter Miami can get some money back if they sell him. If anyone wants to get him, now they have to pay Inter Miami, and I think that's important because
I'm curious to see what Yannick Bright future holds.
Yeah.
Here, because I'm not convinced, despite how solid he is as a player, I'm not convinced that he fits what Inter Miami wants to do. He's not the technical player. He's not the best with the ball at his feet. No tiene buen pie. He's very good defensively, and Inter Miami could use that, but he doesn't necessarily fit their model 100%. So next year, with Busquets gone, you would think the midfield would be Rodrigo De Paul and Yannick Bright on paper as of today here at the end of October of 2025. But then who's generating the Futbol? Who's carrying the ball or progressing the ball, through the lines? I don't know if Yannick Bright will long-term be the starter here despite this contract. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong.
Oh, and
but I
hopefully
don't
he
know.
leaves. Let me tell you something. There are some players that you say he has to get the opportunity that he has for leaving, and the same as it's for Ian Frey, for Yannick Bright, for Noah Allen, who also extended his contract this year. I think those are players that Inter Miami can sell, and that they can get a team easily in Europe, because with the Argentinian guys that they had brought, they're gonna be looking for more money, and I don't know if any of them is worth it in this moment. I don't think they are, and these are players that can go to any team in Europe and be a part of them. Of course, I'm not talking of PSG or something like that, but they can go to a team in Europe and be a part of them, and Inter Miami can do good business with them. So hopefully they get to do that. It was one of the promises that Jorge Mas and David Beckham made, and until this moment, we only have Diego Gomez, and Kremaski is unknown, and let's see if they buy
Rico
him.
de la Vega 4511 says Yannick Bright at McDonald's value menu would probably vary.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
how poor Yannick could survive being a professional player and having to pay rent, eat, a car, and everything here, man. Poor Yannick.
They
I'm
have
so
certain
happy.
deals. They have certain deals that help them, but still, 80K for a professional. Like, I mean,
Can
very
you
quickly-
imagine
very
someone in
quickly.
the NBA making
No, but very quickly,
$80,000?
And I don't. I mean, we're smiling because it's not like the end of the world here. But imagine, in that locker room, everyone comes in. Thomas Aviles comes in.
Thomas
Gonzalo
Aviles
Luján
makes
comes in.
almost $1
They come
million.
in- they come in
Gonzalo
with
Luján
their-
makes almost $1 million.
They come in with their Fendi shirts, their Louis Vuitton, their all the designer brand that soccer players and professional athletes make it part of their identity. And you've got Yannick Bright coming in probably with like Guess and Calvin Klein, which hey, look, I wear Calvin Klein. No hate on Calvin Klein, but when you're a professional athlete and you're in that environment, obviously, those are things that you look at, and that's why you always see that all the players with their little bags and the cologne. You guys can't smell these players when we interview them after games, but I can assure you that 90% of them are super
And it
doused
seems,
in
let me
cologne.
tell you something.
Very
You
expensive
can tell.
colognes.
You can tell the difference that Yannick got like an education, because when we asked him what are you gonna get, and he said no, I'm gonna maybe get something to my mother and keep the money or something like that, because he has
We don't know how much he's making though.
a nice, exactly, we don't know how much he's making. It's more than 80,000, but
today the MLS salaries were released, the updated salaries were released, but his number was still 80K. So I imagine that his salary bump doesn't take effect until next year.
Yeah,
Anyway,
until next year, not for this year. But yeah, but in earnest, we are very happy for Yannick Bright, and this is a good thing, I think, for both the team. It was uh, an obvious business to do.
very quickly, we'll talk about one more player. Then there's one final thought to wrap up the show on. This one is on Chelo Weigand, who earlier today revealed there are no talks to extend his stay ongoing right now. Let's listen to Chelo Weigand, and we'll very quickly share some thoughts on that.
La verdad que todavía no he hablado, estoy concentrado en el día a día. Bueno, ahora estamos en una circunstancia que define muchas cosas. Uno tiene la mente ahí puesta para disfrutar de cada día, de los compañeros, de cada final que nos toca jugar y ahora mi mente está en eso.
¿Te gustaría estar? ¿Te gustaría quedarte?
A mí me gustaría muchísimas cosas, pero no solo depende de mí, sino de otros factores. Pero como te dije, estoy muy tranquilo, estoy disfrutando el día a día y estoy muy metido en la competencia.
Chelo with a very professional response saying that there are no discussions, but he's very focused on the moment now, the day-to-day, enjoying the day-to-day with the playoffs here. He's fully focused on that. He was asked by our colleague Fernando Petrocelli if he would like to stay, and his response was, I would like a lot of things, but doesn't depend on just what I want. Depends on a lot of factors. Andrea, very quickly, because we can save it for later in the year and the offseason when a decision is made. Do you expect Chelo Weigand back? He's been here for 2 seasons now. Do you expect him back for a third in 2026?
No,
Quickly.
because his deal is alone, and it wouldn't make sense for Inter Miami to pay millions of dollars that Boca Juniors are asking for him. It wouldn't make any sense.
He's not a regular starter. He's been a spot starter this year. He's had some good moments. I think I rate him probably higher than a lot of other people do. I'm not saying he's, the answer at right back, but I think he's had some moments where he's performed well and they've kind of been overlooked because he's not the flashiest or the sexiest in terms of his style of play. But I agree. I do not think he will be back next year. Ian Frey has shown he can be the starter there. Although I do think Inter Miami
You have
looks to
other
upgrade that
players on
position
loan
again.
that would be better for you to pay for them, like Baltazar, than paying for Chelo, who isn't even a starter.
I will share this
makes
comment
sense.
because I know it's going to rattle you and ruffle your feathers and poke the hornet's nest or the beehive. But we have something else to talk about after I share it. Pedri Potter, Free Speech says, at least Chelo has been better than Yedlin. Cada Bursa's facts better than Yedlin.
They're trying to trigger me.
We're not going to do it.
They're trying to trigger me.
And Andrea has been very stout that she thinks Yedlin was better than we've talked about this privately, and I think she's mentioned it on the podcast over the last 2 years. At some point, she thinks Yedlin is better than Chelo. I disagree. I think Chelo has been better than Yedlin, but we won't dive into it because we've already gone too long. I'm gonna have to give myself a yellow card soon. Andrea, one last talking point, and we will round out with where we began, talking about Lionel Andres Messi. I wrote 2 stories over the past week that generated a little bit of buzz, generated some talk. One was on his lack of media, his lack of doing media in general, his overall media avoidance that he has done over the last 2.5 seasons. We've only spoken to him once in an initial press conference when he pretty much first arrived right before the Leagues Cup final. He has not spoken to anyone in local media since then. He did do a recent interview with NBC. Caveat, NBC recently struck a partnership with Apple, which we know pays Messi part of what he earns, for a bundle package between the two companies. The other piece that I wrote about was why Inter Miami and Lionel Messi are not selling out their home games anymore. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Friday night match against Nashville was not sold out. There were a lot of empty seats in I think, I'm not going to say I think, sorry, take that back. I know there were in all the sections, there were empty seats, very visible. We can talk about, we're not going to do a deep dive here, but let's spend like 5 minutes before we wrap up. Let's just talk about the impact that Messi is having currently, because we know globally he brings a lot of attention, respect, admiration to Inter Miami. But locally, has the flame started to fizzle a little bit? Has it started to fade a little bit?
100%. 100%. And it's what I told you at the beginning, that it's one thing that Inter Miami is big internationally. That's not going to keep the team surviving here in the United States. But because of the end of the day, you can tell me that Messi sold 100,000 shirts here. Jorge Mas can say that Messi sold more shirts than Real Madrid, like he said one time. But that is not gonna keep Inter Miami big in the United States, their home country. First, for you to be a brand, you have to cultivate the community that you're in, and Inter Miami has not done that. I told you already that Beckham says he loves the community, he loves Miami. Messi hasn't showed any love for Miami, for the community of Miami. He hasn't gone and done any soccer clinics, any donations of cleats. Every event that he has done has been with his partner.
He did start the Messi Cup.
Sponsorship, as a sponsorship, something that's paid. You have to pay to go to that, and he hasn't done that. That here in the United States of America, athletes are expected to do, and that's, I think, what Messi's and his team's biggest flaw is, that they think that they can survive and the team can survive and be successful just because they talk about him in Barcelona and in Argentina. Those people are going to come to the stadium 1-2 times in a year, and that's why you see empty seats. That's why one of the reasons that you see empty seats here, because people, Miami locals, Latinos, Americans, feel left out of Inter Miami, because Messi and their team hasn't done a job to become part of the community. They live here, yes, but they haven't become a part of the community, as you have seen. Have you seen in the past LeBron, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade? Alonso Mourning is still very involved in the South Florida community. You talk about Alonso Mourning, everyone here knows who Alonso Mourning is. You talk to American community here, do you think Americans here really know Messi's story? Yes, they know he's a goal scorer, but they don't know because he hasn't done anything for the South Florida community. He doesn't talk to the media here, to local reporters that are very important to grow, because at the end of the day, a team has to be big in their community to be big anywhere else. So the buzz is definitely not there. Him not talking to the media doesn't help, because as I said this since he got here in this podcast, that is an American tradition. That is an American tradition. And you have seen the impact that people like Son and like Thomas Muller coming to MLS has done for their market, for their teams, for their brand. You have not seen that with Inter Miami. Yes, internationally, yes, in social media, you get millions and thousands of millions of views, but you haven't seen Messi get that kind of relationship with the people here. And it's really unfortunate, because it's a lost opportunity. Messi is bigger than anyone except like maybe LeBron, because LeBron is at his same levels, but you see the impact that LeBron has here. And when he was here in LA, in his hometown, he has an impact. Messi, you cannot say that he has an impact. Selling shirts and that people have shirts, that doesn't make an impact, and that doesn't no se traduce in people in the stadiums. And that is why we saw on Friday the stadium empty. All the VIP area was empty. I was really surprised to see that in a playoff game. So it's unfortunate. And with the
Jay
media,
Vasquez 974 says organization needs to build a following for a team that is beyond Messi. Sure, Messi is the main draw, but there are a few passionate fans of Inter Miami. It's Messi groupies who want to say they saw Messi play. And I want to touch on this from Pedri Potter, free speech, that says at Miami Total Futbol feels left out because they're not getting to speak to Messi as they think they represent American media. Look, Pedri Potter, we don't necessarily need to be the ones that speak to him. He just needs to speak. It is part of the American culture. It's part of American tradition. And he is playing in the MLS, which is an American/Canadian league. So he has to assimilate and adjust to where he is going and who his employer is. Now, if the employer doesn't want to push it on him or force him,
and that's a lost opportunity, because people love to say
fair to Messi, but
he doesn't speak English.
It is a missed
blah,
opportunity.
Blah, blah.
It's a
Otani
missed opportunity.
Doesn't speak English. Otani doesn't speak English. He talks in Japanese. He has a translator there and talks in Japanese, and he's the biggest athlete right now in the United States of America. Messi doesn't even compare to Otani here, right now, in this moment. And that's really something to make Inter Miami and MLS worry, because Messi is bigger than Otani. He is in the rest of the world.
Jason
here,
and J-Lo says, and I think it's the first time Jason and J-Lo comments, says, if I was Messi, I would never talk to the media. They only want drama and titles for the news. Listen, the fact that we even had a soundbite to share because of the announcement of his contract, I mean, don't you guys want to hear more of that? Don't you want to see him? Don't you want to hear what he has to say? Wouldn't you want to hear him talk maravillas, wonderful things about Rocco Rios Novo or Yannick Bright or whoever? Because that also helps raise their stock, which can then help earn a bigger transfer fee if they're sold, which then helps Inter Miami, which also brings more attention. And it's a missed opportunity. I get it. Messi's never been the type to talk. Has he done some media lately? Again, NBC has a partnership with Apple. So that one is probably corporately tied.
That's
Fabricio
why Inter
Romano.
Miami gets zero coverage from local media. Do you see Inter Miami on Will Manso's show? No. Do you see Inter Miami
don't,
CBS
right.
show?
And
no.
I touched on
You
that
don't see
in the
anything
piece.
of Inter Miami.
I touched on that in the story. None of the local English channels send anybody out to training or games consistently anymore. It just doesn't happen. Inter Miami is still, for all intents and purposes, and it's unfortunate because we are here in the day-to-day, we dedicate time out of our lives to do this. Yes, this is a job, but we also dedicate a lot of time to it when we don't have to, because we want to see the sport grow. We want to see it get bigger.
100%.
But it's not getting bigger in the way it
could.
And
I go to the Dolphins and I go to the Heat and to the Marlins, to other sports, as I work in those sports in the city, and I see the difference. The amount of people that are there for Inter Miami, we are only 5 people. It's Jose, yourself, Petrocelli, Michelle Kaufman, you, and me. 5 people that go.
Don't forget about Lizzie. Lizzie's in there.
Lizzie and Safiro. So those are the people that go. But if you compare that to, I went to my Inter Miami practice today in the morning. We talked to Getaway and Yannick Bright, and then we went to the Dolphins because they have a Thursday night game tomorrow, and they had just practice. No one was going to talk because Tua had his media availability yesterday. No one was going to talk, and let me tell you, the triple, almost 4 times more media went for the Dolphins for a practice that no one talked than what went to Inter Miami, who had 2 players speaking. And that in the community is just unacceptable, because you cannot maintain a team that is just only famous internationally, because then you're going to play your games in an empty stadium.
At Nick Smith -IMCF says that's because Americans don't care about soccer. It'd be a waste of resources for those companies. So while Nick Smith, you're not wrong that the general American public may not care about soccer the same way it cares about other sports. The channels used to send people to trainings a few years ago, before Messi. Pre-Messi, the channels used to send people to training. When they realized they were getting next to nothing out of it, because I'm sorry, nobody wants to hear from role players consistently and not the star players. They pretty much said, you know what, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're going to spend our time going to go talk to Tua Tagovailoa. We're going to go speak to, at that time, Jimmy Butler. We're going to go speak to the Florida Panthers because they're competing. Like, Inter Miami, MLS, they don't help themselves. And Messi isn't helping them grow in the way that they could grow. Does he help in a lot of ways? Absolutely. Yes. But he's not maximizing, and MLS is not maximizing his presence here. If he did more media, and again, it doesn't have to be us. It doesn't have to be me. But if he did more and you got to hear more of what he thought, like you did at the beginning of the show with that one soundbite, wouldn't that be something you as a fan or you as a listener or a viewer would want? Even if he says next to nothing, just hearing him talk as the main protagonist in this story, in this team, I think it's a no-brainer. And yes, again, for you guys that are pointing out that he's doing recent interviews, they're all corporately tied. It's not independent. It's not questions that are going to be about something that he's not prepared for. It's all carefully manicured, all carefully crafted. It's all done just to give you the message that they want to give you. It's not done to actually provide much insight. That's why you keep getting this BS nonsense about the
when
world.
He got here.
But it's
a
why we're
public
getting this
shopping
BS
spree.
nonsense about the World Cup
Sponsored.
and why he doesn't know if he's going to play in the World Cup because they want to make some big announcement. This is what I've heard. They want to make
It's a
some big
missed
announcement.
opportunity. Here in Miami, you go and talk to people, and it's a missed opportunity. I have many friends who were excited to get a team like Inter Miami, and they feel left out because Inter Miami does not cater to the community here. That's just a fact. If you just cater to Messi fans, you're gonna leave people behind. And some of those people are people that wanted to support the team, and they really can't anymore because they're being priced out. They feel like tell me what's the point of getting a season ticket from Inter Miami if you can get a season ticket for the Miami Dolphins or the Miami Heat, and that are cheaper, that give you more spectacle, that brings more players here, that you get to hear what Bam says and what Bam thinks, that you get to see him, that he helps Miami when he's needed, that his family is helping Miami. We all know the job that Eric Spoelstra does in the city, and you don't see that, unfortunately, from Inter Miami. You see that from some players, because I've seen it from Ryan Saylor, from Yannick Bright, from David Ruiz, from Noah Allen, who always go to a Baptist Health, to all these activities, but you never see one of the big ones do it. And that's really unfortunate because it's a lost opportunity.
Steve Munoz 1171 says the club mainly focused to get global recognition while the local fans were left behind. You reap what you sow. Luis-X8J2Q says he doesn't need to do more media. Thomas Fibbit says, good job, Messi. Keep doing your talking on the field. Jose Armando, a.k.a. Island Jose, a.k.a. Cinco.
With a tackle, with a gravecina. Look
in
at
the
that.
comment section says the people that don't like asking for more from Messi are the first ones to retweet and repost his quotes. There you go. Jose's in the house, even when he's not forward facing.
Jose spitting facts.
Shout out to Jose. I want to just very quickly, because we've gone very long, but whatever. This show deserved it because we were talking about Messi's contract. I want to listen to Jorge Mas, and he talked about Messi's commitment after the announcement of the contract extension. And one of the funny things that I want you to just glance at, because I don't want you to just distract from the overall point of him talking, but there's a fly that lands on Jorge Mas's head. I promise you it was not a fly that I sent to pick up all the news and nuggets that were said behind closed doors, but there is a fly that lands on Jorge Mas's head and stays there for a good while as he makes his remarks on Messi. So let's very quickly take a look and listen to what Jorge Mas has to say.
It's an amazing day, the re-signing of Lionel Messi to a 3-year deal through 2028, what may potentially be his last contract. Very proud of what we've been able to accomplish with Inter Miami in our short history. Being able to bring a global superstar, the best player of all time, to our city, to be able to be dressed in pink in Inter Miami, and to be able to kick off the 2026 season here at our new stadium. So I feel an immense amount of pride, a very happy day for me and my family, and for David and my brother Jose. For us, it's a dream come true. I also think that it's a great day for Lionel Messi and his family. As he has said, he feels that this community has taken him and his family into their arms, and I can't wait to open the stadium with, almost 30,000 people here cheering for our team, and it's going to be an epic day. And I had always dreamed that when people think of football or soccer in the United States of America, they would think of Inter Miami. I think we've accomplished that. I think that we've been able to take our game globally, the name of Inter Miami globally. Obviously, what Lionel Messi has meant to football in America has been epic, not only to our club. And the nice thing is that we've written some historic chapters, but the best is yet to come, and we have much more to write in the next 3 years.
I hope you guys saw the fly. Landed on the right side of his head, but was facing the camera. It was there for a while, huh? It was there for a while. I guess it wanted its 15 seconds of fame while Jorge Mas talked about Messi. But talks about the commitment. And again, Messi has helped grow Inter Miami and MLS. There's no denying that. But he hasn't optimized the ability to help the league grow. I think that's pretty safe to say. We could talk about this much more. I'll just encourage you all to go read the stories at 442.com. talked to a couple of people. Hercules Gomez, the ESPN analyst, former U.S. men's national team and MLS player as well, also played in Liga MX. Spoke to the Big O Orlando Alzagari as well, very well-known sports talk show host here in South Florida. They shared some good insight as to the bridge that's not being built between a lot of the local fan base and Messi and Inter Miami by him not talking. Because again, he appears, he scores goals, everyone talks about it in the moment, and everyone forgets about it. And a lot of tourists come to go see him for the one-off event, but the locals don't necessarily keep turning out in droves like they used to when he first arrived. But anyway, go read the pieces. We've gone on way too long, so I'm going to give myself a yellow card. And I'm also going to give you a yellow card, Andrea, because you owe me one from earlier. So yellow card for you, yellow card for me. Amarilla para los dos.
Luka Doncic sold more shirts than Messi. Red card me.
Red card. We will leave it there. Inter Miami will play away to Nashville on Saturday. Before then, Halloween is here. Do you have a costume, Andrea?
No, I don't have a costume yet.
I have a costume.
But I don't have a costume.
I have a costume because we have to have our first family photo with Georgina.
Costume, yes.
Because, it's my baby's first Halloween. So I was actually trying to bring her on the show. I was trying to bring her on the show, but she's still sleeping. So I guess her debut will have to wait. We both think Inter Miami wins on Saturday, so they should get through to the next round. Trust Company 8127, who is commenting for the first time, I believe, says, imagine the Messi brand with a Mueller or Son type of personality. All right.
He would rival LeBron here in the United States, 100%.
We will leave it there. It's been a long show. It's been a jam-packed show. A lot to talk about. We went into our older time frame.
We didn't even say who we think they are playing in the next round.
Well, wait till it actually happens, and then we'll go from there. So for Andrea Llanes, I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening or watching Miami Total Futbol Radio, the show. Thank you guys in the comment section. Thank you for you listeners. Thank you for your viewers for tuning in. We will talk to you guys again next week.